Tommy Colletti. We're here at the Music Zoo with none other than John Cruz from the Fender Custom Shop. Been waiting for John to come here for years and years. We finally got him. Million questions to ask you. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
Back where it started for you as far as Fender, or actually let's go back beyond Fender, where the interest for guitars started maybe as a player for yourself, and how it evolved into building guitars.
Yeah, it started early on because I was, like you and like most of the guys that work in the industry are players first, and the dreams of being a big rock star and all that stuff. I was a young kid, and it's like, man, we're gonna do this, man. And I was playing with the band, and one of the guys got a job at another guitar place nearby, and he was digging it, man. He's like, dude, you got to get in here, man. I'm loving it, man. I'm working on necks and stuff like that. I'm like, dude, I got to do this, because I was working like at U-Haul or something, like one of those places, and a hitch mechanic, and had the total short hair and all that stuff, and I was hating life, man. And you can't get gigs with really short hair and all that stuff back in the day, so it's like, I'll do it. So I went down to this place and tried to get an application to get in, and they weren't hiring, and they had mentioned something about Fender, and that's when I'm like, man, I got to go check this out, and that's where it led to, was coming to that dream factory there.
Wow. So nice. And was it originally, it was at Corona at that point?
It was. They'd only been there for maybe a year and a half or so, just getting up and running and stuff. It was very small scale compared to what it is now, and the custom shop I think was just firing up around that time. And but I got in at basically ground level of the company, and just working in the mill, sweeping floors and all that stuff. It was literally like almost a janitor type of job. But yeah, we didn't have any dust collection or none of that stuff in the machines at that time. It was like basically get in there and clean out the machine that's filled with dust, While that guy goes and eats a sandwich outside, you're in there cleaning and get dust in your face, and it just sucked, man. But I was so happy to be there. I was just like, man, this is it. I'm here,
And then how does it go from that then to the next step, which was what, more hands-on?
A lot more hands-on stuff. It was still in the mill at that point. They had me sorting wood, chopping wood, gluing the pieces together and make sure the grains were all running the right way, all that stuff. I did that, planing, just learning all that stuff. There's just so much involved from the beginning on, and I was involved in that early on, and and it evolved into going into they had an opening in the neck department as a final sander. And so I took that, and at the beginning they had me gluing fretboards on and fret slotting and all that kind of stuff. It was a lot of to take in at the time, but I was working around some of the great guys that are still there. Scott Buell was there, and he'd started a year before me, but he was show me the ropes, and this is what you got to look out for. Herbie Gasolum, he was a legend in the shaping world. He started in '61. My bench was right next to his, so he was like, yeah, man, you got to shape the neck like this, and you can't do it like this because you'll get a dip in the neck. And he was showing me all the things that I shouldn't do in order to make a classic neck. And it's like, who else better to learn from than that guy?
Right.
So
wow.
yeah.
Yes, in '61.
Oh, 61, yeah.
So now we've taken guitars apart here, pre-custom shop. That's inspected by John Cruz, right, or JC.
Right.
Also you. So at some point you went to that point where you were inspecting stuff.
When I was not on the line, when I was at custom shop, we initiated the quality assurance program. I was a big part of that. You'll notice some of the guitars, if you open it, has a big JC in there. Those were my initials from going out in the body line, inspecting bodies, making sure everything was good, and if something was no good, I would kick it out right then and there. I was a hated man in that department for a long time, and especially in the neck department. But it's just my mindset was we got to make sure we're doing the best stuff that we could possibly do here. And yeah, they hated me, but I think they appreciated it later on because the emails started coming this is the best product we've ever seen coming out of the custom shop. So I knew I was doing something right, and I think they were pretty pleased with that.
Wow. And then from that point, then was that the next step to getting into the custom shop program?
Well, no. This is when I was already in the custom shop. But before that, I worked in the mill for a while. I went through buff and polish briefly for a few months that I was there, and then I got a call to come on into the final area, where I got to do making pick art assemblies and wiring up pickups, and that's where I was like, man, I can shine here because I'm really detail oriented. Even back then, I would hate to open up a pick art and just see a rat's nest under that bugged me. Even though most people never see that stuff, I see it, and when I'm playing, I know that's underneath there, and I've got a weird thing about that even when I play now. If I know it's wired up and tidy and really nice and stuff, I'll play better. It's weird, but it's just the way it is. So I went through that whole thing and made a move to the tune test department, which was awesome because I got to play guitars, but I had to do so many per day, and it was a ball buster, and I did it, and it was great, and I learned a lot from all the people there, and already have kind of savvy with setting up my own guitars and stuff like that, so I picked that up pretty quick.
Right. And then you want to talk about maybe some of the famous guitars that you've worked on? Like,
sure.
We were talking about Yngwie.
Yngwie, yeah, the classic Yngwie, the Swede. Yeah, he was one of the guys I got to work with, and I've been a fan of his my whole life, just being a player and stuff. But to get to work on his guitar and meet him and hang with him and inspect his guitar, it was like something else, you know. And working on the tribute model was a tough one, but we were able to figure it out, and I'm thinking that the people were digging it out there.
Oh yeah, everybody loved it, and I would assume he's a very demanding guy, right?
He is, but a lot of people, they're afraid of him. They see him, and he can be kind of a little hard to deal with at times, and that's kind of his rock star inner sides coming out, and the general public coming up to him and asking for autographs. He's not about that. But when we sit in a room one-on-one, or if I'm backstage at a concert and I talk to him, he's the nicest guy in the world. He really is.
Wow. And I think the guitar that really, at least for us, that we noticed where as a guitar dealer, we order a guitar and we'll wait for it for a certain amount of time to come in. And I think after you had done the Stevie Ray guitar, you went from being back ordered maybe 4 to 6 months or whatever to now like an eternity. You have to wait an eternity. So since that point, it's put you into like this
right.
Like status that's beyond belief, and it's still to this day, which is all like all amazing. Did that guitar actually hone your chops or something? Do you think that something like happened along the way with that, or is it like what's all of like the different ingredients mixing together to make all that
Well,
happen?
I definitely learned a lot about demand at that point, and what I have to do. There's people waiting now, and now they're waiting longer, but it's like, wow, I got to get these Stevies done, but I got to stay true to my roots, that this has got to be exactly like number one, as close as I can get it. And yeah, it honed my chops for details and all that stuff quite a bit. And it also honed my chops for doing future projects with like you guys, when we're doing like the Ultimate Relic series stuff.
Right, sure.
So, and I really fell in love with that whole concept, man, the really beat up guitars and stuff like that. Still to this day, it's like one of my favorite guitars to build.
Sure.
You know.
Where do you think, with the relicing thing, where do you think what's the next phase of relicing? I know it's like, relicing is obviously taking vintage and kind of like recreating vintage, so you could have new vintage. But do you think it's going in a another direction, or do people want more beat up or less beat up, or is it getting refined? Is it more about like the feeling of the guitar as opposed to just aesthetically?
That's always been my thought towards it. It's got to feel right. It's got to breathe right. It's just got to be right in every aspect of it. The Ultimate Relic series stuff is great, and it's selling good. I see it kind of slowing down a little bit, but it's still out there. There's always going to be demand for that stuff.
Right.
And I think people really love that stuff, and they're digging it. But what I like is when people order it, yeah, dude, I really want to beat up Relic from you, but I don't have a set way I want it to look. I want you to do your thing to it, but just keep this in mind, that my dad gave me this guitar, and he played it back in the late 50s or something like that, and he played a lot of bars, smoky bars, and and he was kind of a drunk on stage, or he would spill his beer on us, like, so I started thinking about that, and I'm starting to apply those type of things to the guitar. So what I really love is when the customer turns me loose to create what I think would be cool for a Relic. That's my favorite type of stuff to do. Wow,
that's cool. So now, can you talk about maybe some of the stuff, like I'm going like this because I'm thinking of your necks, the rolled feeling on the necks. For maybe the person that's thinking about getting a John Cruz guitar or doing his research and going, why do I have to wait 4 years for one of these guitars? It's good that you'd fill everybody in on exactly. It's not only an aesthetic thing. It's like, how did it develop with like the necks? So the necks have that rolled feeling. Where did that come from? And maybe without giving too much of your secret sauce, like how do you do it?
Well, a lot of it comes from going to a lot of the vintage stores and feeling and playing a lot of their guitars, and even the artist guitars and stuff that have like the real stuff out there. I'd always feel that neck. That's the most important part for me, is the neck. It's got to feel right. It's got to feel like a worn-in your favorite pair of jeans or shoes or whatever. One of the things I always noticed is that it always had that really nice roll over the edge. A lot of the new guitars come out that they're beautiful and they play great and everything, but they always have that sharpness to them that I don't really care for much.
Right.
So I've got a way of hand doing that all by hand to roll that edge and just make it feel like it's already broken in, and it's like, man, this is how it's supposed to feel.
Is that something that takes minutes, hours, days?
It kind of depends on what's involved. I mean, if the fretboard's really thick, yeah, you got to kind of work it a little bit to bring it down to a good feeling thing. But like the round lamb type boards are a lot easier to work with because they're already kind of thin as it is. And you got to be real careful how much you roll. You don't want to do too much because then it starts messing with the frets a little bit. And
right.
It's all, you got to kind of look at it as a it's like a field order type of thing. If somebody just wants, I want it broken, but not too much. So I kind of take that into consideration when I'm working on a one-to-one type of guitar.
You did a guitar that we wound up purchasing last year called the Samurai Strat.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell me a little bit about that guitar?
Yeah, that was I wanted to do some sort of a concept style guitar, and working with some of the past artists that we've worked with, Pamelina and Drew Whitefeather, and I kind of had an idea that I wanted to do something with cherry blossoms, and that guitar was actually slated to go to the Tokyo Guitar Show, but it was like we were real tight on time and everything, and I decided, I don't think this is going to make it for the show, and I wanted to do something for the NAMM show, and I knew Japanese were always coming out for that kind of stuff, and they would love to see something like that. So I came up with the idea about the cherry blossom type of thing into the fretboard and all that, and talking to Drew about it, I wanted to get like a hand-tooled leather thing done with it, and he thought, yeah, I got this idea with the Samurai thing that would be great. That would tie in really nice with the whole vibe of the guitar and the woods that I chose. I had like a really nice piece of flame koa hidden in the back behind my bench, and was saving it for a cool project, and that was the one that it ended up working for.
Wow, that's great. It's really true art. So you'll have things in your everyday life that'll just inspire you to come up with something different.
There are always ideas like that. I got something this year that I won't talk about it yet, but I'm inspired by the one year that I was inspired by Chris Craft boats, because I'm a big boat enthusiast, Then those boats have always intrigued me, man. I really would love to have something like that, and I came up with the concept to do that, and that's one of them. Of course, the Rack 'em Up Telly set that I did with the cue ball and the set of the pool cue and all that stuff. That kind of stuff I'm into doing.
Right.
This year I'm leaning a little bit more towards the racing aspect. We'll just leave it at that.
Okay,
So
cool.
you guys will probably see something cool at NAMM this year regarding that, and. You never know what's going to come up. It's always every year, and then coming to events like this and talking to customers and find out what makes their minds tick and what they would like to see out there. That kind of feeds me fuel to what I want to come up with for the next year too.
Nice,
So
nice.
I'm excited to get to do that kind of stuff.
So we've been dying to get John here for years. We've been requesting him from the people inside Fender, and he's always been too busy, and you're still too busy. But they
I know.
pride
They
you
gotta
out
let
of
me
there.
out for a little romp once in a while, man. I mean, come on, dude. It's like a ball and chain to my bench. Except I need to get out.
First time you've been in New York for an event
Yeah,
like this, right?
yeah.
So we're having an event at the store. It's going to be great. John's going to be building a guitar and talking to customers and having a good time. And at the store here, we're all guitar players and collectors and things. And the one thing that's sort of been the overall consensus, is besides your guitars being unattainable already and on this huge waiting list to get a guitar, and but we also feel that 20, 25 years from now, 30 years from now, your guitars could potentially be the 59 Les Paul, the it. So I'm thrilled to have you here. We're all thrilled to have you here. It's going to be a great night, and I really appreciate you being at the zoo.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Thanks, dude.
All right.